Hey guys, what's up? Mike here, and welcome back to another 7 Deadly Sins review. This time it's going to be chapter 213. And again, you're probably wondering why I have a different background. This is just because I've once again returned home, and I will be back again making videos at my old place in probably about 5 or 6 days. The reason why I didn't get up my Hero Academia review this morning was just because I am running out of time this weekend. I didn't have a lot of time to do my stuff that I normally do, like my reviews on My Hero Academia, and also I've kind of stopped reviewing Fairy Tail for separate reasons I might make a video about in the future. But I still do read the series weekly. But moving on to 7 Deadly Sins, this week's chapter was pretty intense, and to say the least. I mean, like I said last week's chapter, 7 Deadly Sins is kind of getting pretty dark. If it was not dark already, I think it was, to be honest with you. But it's getting more and more intense as we go along, and the tragic aspects of each character are just growing every single chapter. Like Gowther in the last couple weeks, his backstory is so much more tragic than we ever could have imagined. King's backstory was already crazy tragic. So many things have happened to King that are so awful and so sad, especially with the whole Hell Room stuff. I thought that was pretty brutal before, actually. So I guess we've kind of seen similar tragic stuff before in the past, but I don't think it's quite this level because it really does add on to King's fragile backstory. But I'll talk about that in a bit. First, let's get into the review today, guys. So the first part of the chapter is kind of showing what happened before our last panel of the last week's chapter, with Rue kind of holding Gerhird's dead body, or pretty much almost dead body, right in front of King, and King being like, oh shit, like what the fuck, why is this happening and why did he do this? And I had some sort of suspicion on why the fuck he would possibly do this. I thought that maybe he was being controlled by Gowther, because this just seemed like it wasn't actually happening. He didn't actually purposely kill this girl, because that wouldn't make a lot of sense story-wise, especially thinking that this guy is probably related to Bon in some way. It turns out that he actually is not the bad guy in this chapter. He does do a lot of bad shit, as we see, but he's not necessarily the main bad guy of this chapter, even though the guy that killed Gerhard was part of his team. I would say that he's maybe not directly responsible, but I would say that he definitely has an indirect responsibility for Gerhard's death. I mean, if he didn't want to actually kill all of these people and kill all these innocent people, as we see him kind of reflect on later in the chapter, he shouldn't have made the same mistake that Stigma did to them so many years ago. They're basically doing the exact same thing that the Angels did to their human tribe a long time ago. And it is interesting to see Rue's backstory, but seeing a flashback within a flashback, it seems like it's going a bit far back, and unless we see a clear connection between Rue and Bon soon, I'm gonna feel like this is a bit irrelevant at some point. So I need to see that connection to our main character Bon sometime soon. And if the looks and the attitude and the fighting style is not similar enough, well, hopefully we get something more in the future. It may have just added to the tragic part of this story, but we did actually get to see a little bit of this Rue's backstory and kind of why he actually cares for this Gerhard girl. It's because she looks exactly like his childhood friend who he thought that one day he would grow up and fall in love with. And this is pretty interesting, a lot similar to Bon's backstory, and the same way Glonixia's story is so similar to King's story. If you think about it, it's almost exactly the same. Glonixia wanted to kill Rue because he thought that Rue was trying to kill Gerhard. Well, meanwhile, they're in love. King did the exact same thing with Bon and Elaine. He tried to kill Bon because he thought that Bon would actually the one who killed Elaine. Meanwhile, they were in love the entire time. This cycle is so vicious, and actually adds a lot of emphasis to the theme of revenge in my 7 Deadly Sins. And the theme of revenge has kind of been there the entire time. It's been there through a lot of backstories, and I feel like we're going to just see more and more of it as time goes on, especially with Meliodas and now Bon and now King and blah 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 blah, more and more as we go farther on. So it does make sense that it is a main core aspect of this series. Whether we actually see Rue die to the hands of King or Glonixia in this chapter is up for debate. I'm willing to say that he might die, but I'm gonna have to go ahead and say there's a pretty good chance that he's not gonna die. He's gonna either go out with a fight, not go out, but sorry, he's gonna put up a fight, or he will just end up dying and some sort of reincarnation thing will happen with him and Bon. I'm really curious to see where the connection is going to fall between them two. I think it may have something to do with the fairy forest, and may not make sense at this point, but I think that Bon being the fairy king in the future is going to have to come into effect in some sort of way. I think that especially because his character has so many connections to fairies, especially through Rue now that we see through the past. So I hope that we see a connection through that kind of area of the story. Another thing I'm curious to find out is how this is going to tie in with Glonixia and Dolar's trial that they gave for King and Diane. Because at the end of this week's chapter, when King is about to actually hurt or kill Rue, at the bottom of the page it says the trial will be deciding, or the trial will be beginning, or whatever, next week. So it's interesting to think about why this could possibly be happening and how this is going to actually tie in with the major decision that they're going to have to make very, very soon. And it's probably going to have to be something to do with Gurhird being revived in some sort of way by maybe the demons or the goddesses. Who knows how that's going to happen, but it's obviously going to happen somehow because we see her in present day. Lastly, King's rage at the end of this chapter was a bit surprising, but at the same time, it wasn't. I mean, you've almost think that you could learn his lesson from all of the fucked up shit that he's done to Bond in the past after figuring out that, oh yeah, Bond's actually not that bad of a guy, and my sister actually loved him for being who he was, and he was actually a fucking hero. You'd think he may have learned a little bit of something by just assuming, especially after just assuming a lot of Meliodas too. King kind of has a problem with just assuming things when he sees them. Saying that though, I do enjoy his character, but I think he really needs to get a little development on this end of things. He needs to actually rationally wait and understand what's going on, because you could see that his sister even tried to say something to him, and he's not even giving a fuck about what she's trying to say right there, or even whether she's still alive or not. He kind of just readies up a big blast and fucks him up, or at least tries to. We haven't actually seen the result of this. But we will probably next chapter. I'm looking forward to also seeing some Gowther stuff next chapter, so hopefully that will be coming up. Anyways guys, this may have been a shorter review today. I apologize. Like I said earlier, I'm pretty busy this weekend along with this week coming up as well, so the videos may be a little bit later, maybe a little bit shorter. I apologize in advance for that. And as well, I apologize for missing My Hero Academia episode 2 this morning. One of the things that I really wanted to review, but they take a little bit more time and I really just didn't have the time today. So I'll be doing that next week for sure. And if you actually watch that review and you're looking for a little bit of something on it, I will say that it was a fucking great episode. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It looks really, really good. And if you actually don't watch My Hero Academia, I really suggest you check it out. It's kind of similar to 7 Deadly Sins in a way, but in its own way. Obviously, it's a lot different, but it still is very, very good. And it's some of the best manga that I'm reading today, along with 7 Deadly Sins. I think they're both up there for some of my favorite mangas I've actually read of all time. So anyways, guys, that's all I got for this one. If you enjoyed, drop a like, comment, or subscribe, whatever you want, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Peace.